She didn't walk away because you were bad. She walked away because, little by little, you became predictable. And there is no greater punishment in the game of seduction than predictability. If you're here, it's because you've already experienced that silent pain. The one that arises when, even though you're doing everything right, you feel like she's forgetting you. You responded quickly. You complimented her too much. You planned dinners, wrote long messages, showed her, without leaving any room for doubt, how special she was. And in return, what did you get? Silence, coldness, disinterest. Let me tell you something that few have the courage to admit. A woman's heart does not want a man who gives himself completely. She wants a man who gives himself in doses and who always keeps a little bit of himself as a mystery. No, this is not cruelty. This is nature. Ever since I knew love and lost it and won it back, I have noticed a pattern that spans time, cultures, and social classes. Women fall in love not with the man who loves them intensely, but with the man who makes them feel they still need to win him over. I was both. I was the fool who offered everything at once, and I was the master who learned to offer each gesture as if it were a rare, coveted, unpredictable gold coin. In the chapters to come, I will reveal secrets that are not found in psychology books or seduction manuals. These are truths extracted from the womb of experience and forged in the flame of loves lived, lost, and regained. You will understand why too much attention kills desire, why your unprotected kindness can push her away more than it attracts her. Why, in the end, the man she loves is not the one who gives her everything, but the one who makes her fight for every gesture, every word, every crumb of emotion. If you want to not only understand women, but be the man they can never forget, then take a deep breath. What starts now is not a video. It's a mirror. And maybe, for the first time, you'll see yourself not as a victim of rejection, but as the architect of your own downfall. But don't worry. Every fall can become a flight, as long as you learn the new rules of the game. Now tell me, are you ready to become the kind of man who doesn't have to chase because he's the one who makes women chase him? Then follow me. Most men believe that winning a woman's heart is an act of offering. Flowers, constant messages, expensive dinners, sweet words spoken with devotion. Nonsense. I was once that man, young, generous, passionate, and I saw with amazement and pain her desire wither with every gesture I made to please her. It was in this abyss that my truth was born. What feeds fascination is not presence. It is absence measured with surgical precision. I learned this in Venice, under a sky laden with secrets and intrigue, when I fell in love with a married woman. I treated her like an oracle, but it was only when I began to disappear between days, delaying letters, silencing compliments, that I realized something extraordinary. She began to dream about me, not because I was more handsome or richer, but because, by becoming a mystery, I made myself an obsession. The female heart, if I may be frank, does not desire complete security. It desires to be provoked into feeling. And feeling requires instability, not cruel, but charmingly enigmatic. When a woman feels she has you, she begins to look for another challenge. But when she feels she is almost there, and that almost slips away like steam between her fingers, she becomes your willing prisoner. It's not cruelty, it's emotional aesthetics. Look, I'm not talking about the coldness of scoundrels, but the mastery of men who know how to measure the weight of each gesture. If you send flowers, do it when she doesn't expect it. If you disappear, do it without explanation, but with purpose. Uncertainty doesn't destroy desire. It ignites it. The women who truly loved me partly for what I said, but above all, for what I left unsaid, for the look that lingered a second longer, for the letter that took 3 days to arrive when she was expecting it the next day, for the dance that wasn't danced, for the kiss suspended in the air. It is the space between gestures that builds the theater of seduction. Today, so many men complain, I was so good to her, I gave her everything. And I reply, that was precisely the mistake. Love is not born of excess, but of well-calculated scarcity. Devotion without mystery is not charm, it is routine. And routine is the silent killer of desire. Once, a marquise said to me, Giacomo, I feel like I never have you completely. And I smiled, because that was it. I never gave myself completely. Not out of coldness, but because I understood that a man who gives too much of himself is like spilled wine. He loses his aroma, temperature, and magic. Casanova was not a manipulator. He was a reader of souls. I understood early on that women need something to imagine, to question, to desire. Predictable men are the easiest to abandon, but men who provoke questions, they live forever in memory. So if you want to be unforgettable, don't treat her like a prize you've already won. Treat yourself like a secret she's still trying to figure out. There is a truth that no poet dares to write, but which I, Casanova, have engraved in my flesh. The less certain a woman is of her feelings for you, the more she will think about you. The female mind cannot stand neutral zones. It needs to turn doubts into obsessions. And it is in that interval between yes and no that a man becomes unforgettable. When the nice guy sends flowers every morning and declares his love before breakfast, he is not creating intimacy. He is creating boredom. Her mind already knows the script. It already predicts the next message, the next smile, the next invitation. And predictability is the poison that corrodes desire. I've seen men richer, nobler, more virtuous than me, abandoned by women who swore they loved them. Why? Because they handed over their hearts on silver platters without realizing that true jewels are not given. They are earned in small doses, like a rare perfume that lingers and disappears in the next instant. Women don't want a man who is always available. They want a man who, no matter how much he desires them, does not bow to the need to be desired in return. That is the essence of true masculinity, being with her by choice, not out of need. I remember a night in Paris in a count's salon where a young woman with dark eyes asked me, "Why do you look at me as if you desire me, but you don't come closer?" I replied, "Because the pleasure of desire lies in watching it grow." She was silent, but that night she was the one who sought me out. Most men believe that to be desired, they must be constant givers of attention. But the secret lies in the opposite. Sporadic attention is infinitely more valuable. When a gesture becomes rare, it gains weight. When a compliment comes after silence, it becomes a treasure. Scarcity creates value. Uncertainty is the seed of fascination. Look, this isn't about playing childish games. It's about understanding that the female soul needs stimuli to break it out of its rut. A man who reveals everything about himself on the first date doesn't arouse curiosity, but a man who leaves questions unanswered, he occupies her mind for days. Want an example? Stop responding to every message immediately. Not because you're pretending to be uninterested, but because you're cultivating your own life, your own interests. When you don't put her at the center of your universe, she feels the urge to seek that place. The secret is not to ignore her. It's to be selective. It's this selectivity that shows her that your presence is not given out of desperation, but granted by choice. And when she realizes that you don't need her to feel complete, she will find herself increasingly attracted to the idea that she deserves your focus. I wasn't stronger, more handsome, or richer than other men, but I was the man who knew how to disappear at the right moment and reappear when my absence had become unbearable. Want to be unforgettable? Give her the rarest gift of our age, uncertainty. The women who wanted me most were not those I praised incessantly, but those who had to fight to get a smile out of me. Because, dear reader, approval given without criteria is like currency without value. To praise obvious beauty is surrender. To reinforce a noteworthy attitude, that is art. In the salons of Vienna, I saw men lose their mystery in a single night, throwing compliments like coins into a public fountain. Every sweet word offered without effort, every "you are amazing" said out of habit, stole a little of the flame that could have been lit. Women want to be seen, yes, but not as a painting that anyone can admire. They want to be deciphered like a code. In one of the many letters I wrote, I told a countess, "Today, you interested me less for your beauty than for your choice of words when you were silent." She replied 3 days later, saying that no sentence had ever made her so uneasy. It wasn't her beauty I was praising, it was what lay behind the silence. The result? She began to want me not out of vanity, but out of defiance. A man who compliments too much reveals something fatal, that he is emotionally surrendered. And a man who surrenders too soon becomes emotionally useless to a woman who seeks more than a servant. She wants a mirror that challenges her, not a stained glass window that only reveres her. Unconditional validation creates the paradox of disinterest. The more you offer without demanding, the less she values it. She needs to feel that your affection is not automatic, that your gaze, your touch, your words are achievements, not emotional charity. I remember an artist I met in Florence. All the men around her treated her like a goddess. I, on the other hand, said little. I observed, And when she was tempted to ask if I didn't find her beautiful, I simply said, "The beauty that everyone sees interests me little. I want to know what you hide." She looked at me as if she had been hurt, but from that wound, desire was born. She began to seek my approval. She dressed not for others, but for me. She painted not for applause, but for my eyes, because my praise came as a reward, not as a social obligation. Do you understand now? A compliment only has power when it comes from a man who has discernment. A glance is only memorable when it comes from a man who is not easily impressed. And a presence is only addictive when it comes from a man who knows how to be absent. When a woman feels she needs to win your attention, she goes into seduction mode. Not because she wants to manipulate, but because she wants to feel alive. And a man who gives everything without filter kills her, little by little, with the tedium of predictability. Make her a hunter. Be the prize, not the gift. And if she wins, let her feel that it was because of her merits, not out of pity, habit, or your need. The pleasure of conquest is not in having it. It is in realizing that you don't give yourself to just anyone. A predictable man is a sentence of boredom waiting to happen. And boredom, dear reader, is the only poison that kills desire without leaving visible marks. I learned this not in books, but in the alcoves where beautiful women sighed, and soon after, yawned. The mistake of the modern gentleman is to believe that stability and predictability are synonymous with love. They are not. They are synonymous with routine, and routine turns even the most ardent lover into a decorative object, useful but invisible. I remember a young French woman, the daughter of an ambassador, who confessed to me, between laughter and knowing glances, "Giacomo, you never let me know what to expect, and it drives me crazy." She didn't say this as a criticism, but as a confessed addiction. Her desire was not for me, it was for the uncertainty I represented. The man who masters the art of unpredictability does not need to be rude or distant. He needs to be strategically inconsistent. Today, a gesture of affection. Tomorrow, a calculated silence. Today, a strong presence. Tomorrow, an absence that echoes louder than 1,000 words. This rhythm, this dance between closeness and distance is what keeps her mind on alert. When she predicts his moves, she looks away. When she needs to decipher his next move, she stays in his orbit. That's why the nice guy becomes obsolete after winning her heart. He starts acting by default, forgetting that female desire is fueled by the unexpected. He repeats the same words, at the same times, with the same gestures. The woman, then, no longer feels like she has a lover. She has a habit. I, on the other hand, understood early on, it's not about being distant or cruel. It's about being alive, pulsating, a breathing enigma, being a man whose presence cannot be accounted for. When you become an easy equation, you lose your appeal. But when you are an emotional dilemma, she will become your most faithful decoder. I remember an episode in Rome. For 3 nights in a row, I was absent from the balls where a duchess was waiting for me. Not out of disdain, but because I realized that absence was the only invitation she would truly respect. On the 4th night, when I finally showed up, her gaze said it all. Longing had turned her into a devourer. The secret? You don't have to be an unsolvable mystery. You need to be a renewable mystery. Predictability is the enemy of seduction because it eliminates the game. And a woman who loves the game is not frivolous. She is a woman who needs to feel alive in every interaction. The big mistake men who lose women make is not loving them too much. It's loving them in a linear way. It's not intensity that kills desire, it's the absence of variation. If you want her to be fascinated, don't give her a map of your emotional itinerary. Be uncharted territory where every gesture is a new discovery. The men women abandon are those who become easy to forget. And the easiest man to forget is the one who, day after day, acts the same way, says the same phrases, delivers the same routine, wrapped in predictable gestures of affection. If you want to be eternal in a woman's memory, become impossible to anticipate. The true power of a man does not lie in his promises, but in the silence that makes a woman question whether she has him completely. It is in this space where certainties are torn apart and the senses are sharpened that irresistible fascination is born. Many believe that to keep a woman by your side, you have to guarantee, affirm, and reaffirm. But the man who becomes necessary is the one who doesn't try to be. He doesn't compete. He doesn't convince. He exists so fully that the woman herself feels she needs to win him over with each new encounter. When you don't despair to prove your worth, the world begins to read you as someone who already has it. Women feel this. They understand that you are not there to fill a void, but to share an excess. And this excess is not arrogance. It is a fierce serenity that says, I don't chase after what I don't want to achieve. It is this attitude that transforms glances into pursuits, words into memories, encounters into rituals of mutual conquest. You don't have to be the richest, the most handsome, or the most eloquent. You need to be the man who is never completely conquered. The man who, even when he's right next to her, keeps a piece of himself inaccessible. Not because he's playing games, but out of self-respect. That piece is your essence, and that's what will keep her intrigued, fascinated, and, above all, connected. And if you've made it this far, it's because, in some way, you already feel that you've been tamed by predictability. You're tired of being the man who pleases and want to become the man who makes an impression. The man who doesn't beg, but is remembered, even in silence. The man who has mastered the art of being desired without having to chase. Now, I want to see who's really ready to change the game. In the comments, write, untamable and unforgettable. I want to know who the men are who are committed to no longer being forgotten. If this video made you see yourself from a different angle, like it now. Your like is not just a gesture. It's confirmation that you no longer want to live as a predictable man. And if you want this project to continue, if you want more videos that tear down masks and build a new standard of masculinity, consider leaving a donation of any amount using the button below. Not because you need to, but because you choose to. It is this choice that defines those who watch from those who transform. The game has changed, and now the decision is yours.